Time to talk some Texas A&M football. We got Leah Musgrave on the line from TexAgs.com. The Aggies coming off a 20-7 win over LSU, and of course, they've got the Auburn Tigers up ahead. Leah, how you doing today?
I'm good, Mark. It's funny. I'm actually at the point in the season where everything feels like it's kind of starting to blend together. So I'm excited for another week here as we kind of head down the stretch here. But we are all the way into December still playing SEC football, but I kind of love it.
Well, yeah, it also blends together when you think, okay, this is the schedule. No, now this is the revised schedule. Oh, no, that's right. This one got postponed and they're trying to fit this one in, and we'll just have to wait and see how it looks. But as it stands right now, I guess we might as well get into it. And as you mentioned, we're typically awaiting an SEC championship game right now, but championships are going to be decided in December this year. And Texas A&M hopefully will be part of that mix. So, of course, the trip to Auburn and Tennessee's also on the schedule, but Ole Miss could possibly fit into the mix as well.
Right. So the reason why all of this has been shuffled around is because LSU actually had those scheduling issues because they were out with so many positive COVID tests and all of those issues. So Ole Miss, it looks like, is going to play LSU on that weekend. And so things have been shuffled around. A&M is hitting the road for Auburn this weekend. Then they'll likely get Ole Miss this next weekend and then Tennessee after that. That hasn't become official yet, but the SEC actually should confirm that for us on Friday.
Let's look at the performance against LSU. It's pretty easy, Leah, to split this one up between offense and defense. The offense bad, the defense good. It's, of course, a little bit more complex than that. Let's start with Kellen Mond. So I have tended to become some kind of a Kellen Mond apologist in recent years. I don't tout him as the best quarterback in the country or anything like that, but he's certainly had a prolific career at Texas A&M. And this season, I believe, has been his best season to date up until Saturday night's performance, where he just, I know it was offensive line issues at times, and it was wide receiver issues, and they continue to deal with that. But it certainly, he was not on his game.
He definitely was not. There's kind of no way to beat around the bush. It was just not a good day for Kellen Mond. I mean, that's the truth of the matter is he had a bad game. He was 11 of 34 for 105 yards. And I also remember he lost a fumble at the LSU 5-yard line. I mean, that just was not the Kellen Mond that you want to see. It was his worst game of the year by a landslide, really. And we've seen him have these flashes of incredible moments. I remember when he threw for 430 yards against Clemson 2 years ago. I mean, we've seen flashes of what he can be. And that just, it was a bad game for Kellen Mond. And it didn't help that the offensive line had some issues. They allowed a lot more pressure on him that didn't help. They couldn't get going on the ground, and it was just rainy and miserable. It was just a bad game. And like you said, they were also pretty thin at receiver. Chase Lane was out. It looks like he'll be back this weekend. And then Damon Demas was quote unquote unavailable. And a big part of this is that some guys just haven't developed yet. And A&M is lacking a deep threat right now. We know this. Jimbo knows this. And he runs a complicated offense. So their time just hasn't come yet, which I know does not make a lot of Aggie fans very happy. But they definitely are in need of a bounce back performance this weekend because this was not a top 5 offense, if we're being 100% honest.
Maybe a top 5 defense, though. We know that LSU's been struggling on that side of the ball, but still, this defense is bringing it every week. I caught some of Jimbo Fisher's news conference this week. I was glad to hear him asked about Buddy Johnson being this heart and soul of the defense because I thought I'd picked up on that, and I'm not a Texas A&M guy, but just from watching the games, that certainly the senior is having an outstanding year. DeMarvin Leal really, really stepped up in the LSU game, and Aaron Hansford as well. He's a guy that seems to have gotten his opportunity, and he's taking advantage.
Absolutely. Buddy Johnson 100% was the MVP of this game. And I love how we can look all across the board and say, oh, well, Aaron Hansford is a guy who showed some flashes last year. Now we're finally seeing what he can be. DeMarvin Leal, we have been so excited about since he got to campus, and Jimbo Fisher actually just gave him the highest praise at his press conference yesterday because this is a dude, he says, that just absolutely loves ball. He loves watching film. He loves lifting weights. He loves everything. And I think that's starting to show when we look at what they're doing on Saturdays. And against LSU, this game was just characterized by good, dominant defense from A&M. They were playing wrecking crew style football. Buddy Johnson was actually asked about that at the press conference as well. And he said, well, we like to have our own identity here, but that's exactly what it's looking like, though. They just wreaked havoc on the LSU quarterbacks, and the development of this pass rush has been so fun to watch. A&M was credited with 9 QB hurries. They had 5 tackles for loss, and I think they lead the SEC in that category. They had 2 interceptions, one of which Buddy Johnson returned for a touchdown. They're leading the SEC right now in total defense. I think they're in the top 3 against the run and in scoring defense. I think Mike Elko, the Aggies defensive coordinator, is not getting enough credit for what he has done with this team in 3 years. I mean, it was completely lopsided, 2 different stories on both sides of the ball. But you know what? At the end of the day, they hadn't played actual football in 3 weeks, and it was rainy and gross. We knew it was going to be rough. I didn't think it would take that long for them to shake off the rust. I mean, I guess they never really did. And not that it's an excuse per se, but I believe that the reason is because there were a dozen players that weren't even practicing because they were in quarantine until the Sunday before the game. And so this was a very lopsided, interesting game. The good news is that A&M was in control. There were some bright spots. There were some not so bright spots. But at the end of the day, Jimbo Fisher is now 2-1 against LSU at Texas A&M. And that is a huge thing for this program.
Not technically a shutout for Texas A&M on defense, but in terms of meaningful scores, they didn't allow any, with LSU just scoring in the last few seconds of the game to make a 20-7 final. We got Leah Musgrave on the line from TexAgs.com. Please join her and the rest of the staff there covering Texas A&M sports with the Aggies taking on Auburn. So I think the SEC scores seem to justify each and every week why Alabama's the number 1 team in the country. They put down A&M by 4 scores. They do the same to Auburn last week, but the Tigers will certainly be a difficult challenge on the Plains. Bo Nix and company and Jimbo Fisher taking on Gus Malzahn in their yearly battle of offensive minds.
Yeah, this one is so much fun to me to look at, too. And an interesting stat that I'll give you here is under Jimbo Fisher, A&M has only lost twice to teams ranked outside of the top 10. And so in year 3 under Jimbo Fisher, this is not a game that the Aggies should lose. But at the same time, this could end up being a crazy game where Gus Malzahn coaches a great game and Bo Nix plays out of his mind at home and Auburn ends up winning by 3 touchdowns. And honestly, it's hard to say after how A&M has played Auburn in recent years. And A&M is going on the road where they have struggled in the past. The last time in 2018, I remember A&M was up by 10 with 5 minutes left and they gave up 2 late touchdowns and they lost. And that loss does not sit well with this team. So I know they don't like the word revenge, but I know that they're looking to kind of clean up some unfinished business in Auburn, Alabama. Mark, for this week for A&M, I think the biggest key is to keep Kellen comfortable, to give him time and give him opportunities to make plays and use his legs. They should be able to capitalize on the run game against what Auburn's defense is playing like right now. They haven't been super productive this year. There should be some opportunities for them up front. And you know what? Auburn's offensive line is pretty banged up too. And now they're going against one of the best defensive lines in the SEC after having just seen Alabama last week. And given the fact that defensively A&M is pretty much playing lights out right now all across the board, it should be fairly easy for them to be able to put pressure on the quarterback and make the necessary adjustments.
Yeah, if I remember that game 2 years ago in the Plains, as you state, 10-point lead, 5-6 minutes left in the game, actually driving again close to the red zone to get another score. Kellen Mond throws a bad pick, and then Auburn cashes in with 2 touchdowns in the final 5 minutes to take home the victory, and Auburn goes to Kyle Field last year as well and picks up a win. Got Leah Musgrave on the line from TexAgs.com breaking down the Aggies for us. Leah, we appreciate you stopping by. Enjoy the game this weekend. Another huge one for the Aggies as they continue their march to complete a 1-loss season.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to see what kind of conversation we'll be having next week, whether it is still the college football playoff conversation or if it's something else. So thanks again, Mark. Catch you next week.